Welcome back. Today, I would like to analyze my last few rapid games, as many of them as I can. I know I have a history of saying I want to analyze a bunch of games, but then I only have time for one or two. That might happen again here today. But in a very rare occurrence, I won my last 4 rapid games. My last 2 on chess.com and my last 2 on Lichess. This is one of them from a couple of nights ago. I am going to use my game review on this one. During the game, I had the impression that I was behind for quite some time, and then I went ahead right near the end. But now looking at the graph, it looks like we were even for a long time, and then I was ahead for a little while, and then they were ahead, and then back and forth a couple of times. The ratings estimator correctly probably says that we played very poorly. My opponent played like a 650, I played like a 1000. Well, that's not encouraging. Okay. But looking at the move list, it looks like we went quite some time before there were any major problems, but then right around move 19 or 20, there were a bunch of problems, and then that continued for the rest of the game. I don't know which ones to focus on. I was playing with the black pieces, and I played against d4, which I've mentioned repeatedly on this channel I've had trouble with. I've switched back to knight to f6, and I've been trying to play, I believe it's called the King's Indian Defense, if my opponent plays c4, but here they played e3, but I went ahead with my g6 plan of trying to fianchetto the bishop, and it looks like it's working out okay. They get their knight out to f3, and then I fianchetto my bishop. And here I'm ready to castle. Sometimes my opponent doesn't just put this pawn halfway up. Sometimes they go all the way to d4, and then I have to play d6, or I feel like I have to play d6 to counteract another push of that pawn. But this time, because it was so far back, I felt ready to castle. But anyway, we can speed through the rest of the opening because, as we showed here, there were not any mistakes until here. There were a couple of inaccuracies, but it's still very close to even after my inaccuracy, and then we stay right near even for the rest of this, like I said, out to about 19 moves. So I'm just going to get up there to my first mistake, which was on move 19. So after my opponent played that, I have a -1 advantage. So that might not have been an inaccuracy, that might have been an actual mistake, because I'm up -1, and there's at least 2 moves that take advantage of that. One is knight to c5, which looks like it's aiming in here to d3. Okay, I get that. And the other one is queen to f6, which points at the undefended rook. As I said, this was a couple of nights ago, so I don't remember my thought process behind every move here, and I don't remember whether I considered those 2 moves. I'm pretty sure I didn't consider queen to f6 because that doesn't seem like something I would look for. Knight to c5, I may have considered that. I might have considered, taking the knight in here. I think I eventually did get it over here to b3, but yeah, down here, but that was a mistake, so we'll get to that one in a moment. Okay. I mean, I think I get what both of those moves are doing, but it doesn't seem like either one of them is going to be really successful. If I play this, they're going to see that I'm going for the fork, and they're just going to move their rook over one. And then I'm going to play f6. Okay. I don't think I'm at quite the advanced level to get what's going on there. And same thing with the queen to f6. Yes, it's pointed at undefended rook, but they're just going to move it, right? In this case, it says they would bring it down here to b5, and then I would take that knight. Okay, so I do get queen to f6 in this position. I don't get the whole knight thing because they're just going to move. But in this case, I do get it because my queen is not just pointed at the rook, it's pointed at the knight as well. Because after they move the rook to safety, I take the knight, and I'm either up a piece or they have to take back. And they either have to take back with a pawn, which opens up their king and leaves them with these doubled isolated pawns, or they have to take back with their queen, which I can then take, leaving them with double isolated pawns. That one seems like on the high side of intermediate to me, but just seeing it now and having figured it out on my own, I think I could find that in the future. But I didn't. I played bishop to d3, which I thought was locking in the pawn and the bishop here, but that gave my opponent an advantage, but they didn't play their best move. And then they didn't play their best move on the next turn, and they didn't play their best move on the next turn, so now I'm up -1, almost -2, just from their 3 or 4 inaccuracies in a row. And here I had to play queen to d6 or queen to c6. Those were my top 2 moves. But I played queen to a5. Well, I saw an undefended pawn over here. I also saw that that was pointed back here at this rook, so then I would be able to move the knight someplace and be pointed at that rook, which is currently defended now that I think about it. I mean, I guess d6 also points at that rook and it defends the knight, but I mean, queen to a5 defends the knight too. Not sure what c6 does. I'm not sure why those were better. So when I played queen to a5, it took away half of my advantage. Okay, but my opponent made a mistake here. They were supposed to slide down here and threaten my rook, which I would then not move. That's what it says. I would leave that rook there and take this pawn, which is what I was pointing at. I'm pretty sure if they put the bishop there, I would move the rook. But maybe that would be a mistake too. I don't know. But instead, they brought the bishop back to aim at the knight, which I am defending. And I would continue to be defending after I took this pawn, which that was not a mistake, but it's definitely not my top move. My top move here is to play c3, and I'm ahead -3. after that mistake. So I think that was a blunder. Backing up, yeah, we're under -1 here. Earlier it said 0.85, now it says 0.73. I mean, it's still under -1. And their mistake takes us to it's over -3, but only if I play c3. It's -2 if I bring this rook over. But it did not count it as a mistake or even an inaccuracy to take the pawn, even though that took away a third of my advantage. I want to back up and see if it'll list that move. Oh, it did for just a second. It listed, oh, there it is again. So that is my second best move. Yeah, that happens sometimes on this site, not on the other site. On the other site, when you back up, it's exactly the same as it was before. But this one, I guess, reruns the odds after it sees the next move. Anyway, so that wasn't horrible. And it is, of course, still defending the knight. It is pointed at an undefended rook, which it says they just need to move over here so they would have 2 pieces pointed at the knight. But I'm still way ahead, and I would just hop the knight out of there. So I shouldn't be worried here. My opponent did play their best move, but I didn't hop it the right way. Okay, and I had mentioned that my queen over there after taking the pawn would be pointed at their rook, which was earlier defended by their bishop, but their bishop is moved, so that rook's not defended, so I felt comfortable hopping my knight up in here. Not only am I now controlling some important squares on the opponent's back 2 ranks, especially, once you include the bishop here, guarding several of those squares as well, and my queen is pointed at a couple of them, but now we're dead even if they just drop this rook down to b7. Well, I mean, they probably saw that I was now aiming at this rook, and so they dropped down there to defend the rook. We're dead even if I play rook a to e8 or knight to c5. Put the knight back where it was. I'm up 2 points of material here. And those 2 points of material are these 2 pawns, but I also know I'm going to have a hard time getting those pawns down there with their queen on the back rank, and my knight is guarding this square that my queen can go to and basically force a queen trade because their queen would then be pinned to their king. That seemed like a good strategy to me, but it is a losing strategy according to Stockfish. They just take my queen and I take, and now they're ahead. Well, see, I thought I was ahead now because I'm now the one with 2 passed pawns, but no. If they'll drop the knight back, they'll be fine. They did not drop the knight back. They came over here. I'm not sure why. The only thing I could think of at the time, I do remember this, is that they were pointed at that rook. So I thought they were going to move their rook that's in the way right now. And then I don't know where they would move it to. And then my rook would be endangered and I'd have to move it. So I thought about moving it now. But then that would undefend this pawn here, the f pawn, which they're clearly looking at. So I thought, why not hop my knight back up here to attack their bishop? So when they do move that rook, I can take the bishop and they can't take my rook. But apparently that was too complicated. I just needed to push my c pawn. Is that the second time it said to just push the c pawn? Okay, so in this game, my problem was not knowing when to push the passed pawn. Here I should have just pushed the passed pawn. But instead, I attacked their bishop. I still have a very slight lead, but they went the wrong way with it, and now I'm up -2 again. If I'll play knight to d4, which I guess aims for this, maybe? I'm not sure what knight to d4 aims for. Or a5. Well, I did play a5, because that's my other passed pawn. I have 2 of them, remember? And I did remember that. Not only does it attack the bishop, but it looks like I can just keep going. But it can't keep going because they just get in front of it. And now pushing the c-pawn is definitely not one of my top moves. So that's what I did. I pushed the c-pawn. That is losing because it undefends the knight that they are currently pointed at. I don't know why, but I thought, for some reason I thought if they took that, then I could just push this. And then they would, I guess it wouldn't be that hard for them to get in front of it because the knight's gone. Okay, that might have just been a simple oversight on my part. What should I have done instead? Knight to d4 or knight to d2? Not sure what knight to d2... knight to d2 gets the knight out of the way of this so that I can push the pawn. But then it says they would line the rook up on the bishop. Wow, I probably shouldn't have attempted to look at several games today. I had no idea there were so many problems in this game. So that was a blunder, but they didn't take my knight. They went after the bishop instead. And I thought, oh, well, I should just keep pushing the pawn. Why did I think that? I don't know. I should have moved the bishop back to c4 to protect the knight and at the same time get the bishop out of danger. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, but then they would have taken my rook, but I would have been way ahead if I had just put my bishop on c4. But instead, I moved my passed pawn, which is a blunder because they can take my knight, which is the thing guarding the promotion square. Those two seem obvious to me now that I left my knight hanging. Maybe I was counting on losing that pawn just to get their bishop out of the way and then pushing my other pawn, but then their bishop can get back in front of it. But they had been pointed at this rook for so long, they were way too tempted and they took that rook, which gives me a huge advantage, which I maintain for the rest of the game, because now obviously I can promote, and they have to get out of check. And yes, I did consider taking the bishop with my rook, but I also thought maybe there's a way to, trap them down in there somehow. Well, here I thought if I checked and they just move out of check, then I pick up this knight. And if they go to protect the knight and block the check with the pawn, then I'm going to get this other one. And so I just checked, which turns out to be fine. Their best move is to play king to g1. and give up the knight, but it says I wouldn't take the knight, I would take the bishop. But instead they blocked with the pawn, which gives me mate and 4. So I checked here. Their best move is to block with the knight, which they did, and then I dropped my bishop back, pointed at that. I don't think there's anything they can do. It says their absolute longest delay of mate is to go back here where I have to take it first, and then they can't escape the checkmate. But instead they took this pawn and resigned. Okay, so this game, at least 4 of my mistakes and or blunders were either moving the c-pawn when I should not have, or not moving it when I should have. So that's what I need to work on. Maybe I need to do some more endgame puzzles with passed pawns. Okay, and this is the game I played last night on chess.com. I've already used my game review on that previous game, so I don't have it here, but I turned on the analysis here, and I started at the end and went backward until the last place that we were even, and it was right here on move 14. I don't know whether any of these were mistakes or blunders before that, but I know here that it's about even, and I should have played queen to c2. I think I mentioned it in a video a few days ago that Stockfish was always recommending me to put the queen on c2 here, and over there to put it on c7, and I never understood why, but that's what it's saying here too. Or bishop to g5. Unlike a lot of my opponents, I don't often go out and pin those knights unless I can think of a really good reason or a really good way out of it. In this case, they're just going to push that pawn. Like 90% of my opponents, if you do try to pin the knight to the queen or pin the knight to the king, they immediately challenge it to see if you want to trade a bishop for a knight. And I wouldn't know then if I'm supposed to trade for it, if I'm supposed to back up, and then they push the other one and I back up again. And that pawn's defended, so I don't know what the point of that would be, or why it would keep us even. It does develop the bishop, though, so I guess maybe that's it. Regardless, I took that pawn, which turns out to be a blunder. That's a 2.5 point drop there, and it's because I don't have... Oh, that's why I needed to put my queen on c2, because I only have one piece guarding the e-pawn. This backward e-pawn here that they have 2 knights pointed at, I only have 1 knight pointed at it. I needed my queen to help defend that. And their best move is to take that with either knight. So they didn't. They came over here with their queen, which makes it even again. Okay, I must have misread the eval bar when I was moving backward through the game. But only if I play bishop to d2 or queen to c2, which guards this knight, which is currently undefended and they're pointed at. Okay, so in this game, it looks like my problem is not realizing when the opponent has more attackers on one of my pieces than I have defenders on it. And in that case, this knight has no defenders on it. It's just sitting there, and they clearly made a move here to take it, and I didn't defend it. I kept going with that pawn over there, and they're supposed to take the knight. They did take the knight, and now my rook's in trouble, so I've got to move the bishop. Was a bishop to d2 my best move this time? It was. Okay, so they need to move their queen over. They did move their queen. Then now I have to play rook to c1, which gives up both my a-pawns, but aims at an undefended knight. Oh, it says they would just take my queen. Well, if they're going to take my queen anyway, why not take it first, which is what I did, but that turned out to be worse for some reason. I guess it's because they can then fork me. So they did, and then I moved the... Oh, it says I'm not supposed to move the rook. Okay, I'm supposed to play bishop to b5, or rook to b1. Well, I didn't do those. I played rook to a2 to help defend this bishop because I didn't know that that knight would be able to keep sitting there. That turns out to be even worse, and that's because they can trade for the bishop. They didn't trade for the bishop, they took the pawn. Am I supposed to take back? Not really. I'm supposed to save this bishop over here on b4 and let them have the light squared bishop, which isn't even defended. Oh no, after I move this, the light squared bishop would be defended by the rook. Okay, I got that. Okay, but I thought I was supposed to trade, which isn't much worse, so I traded bishops. It doesn't really matter whether they take my dark squared bishop or my light squared bishop. They took one of them, and then did I move the other one to save it? I did, okay. But I'm down -4 now because they got a whole knight for free. Now I got an extra pawn because I got to march across there with my pawn. But yeah, so I'm down 2 points of material here. And I was behind for a little ways. Let's see, -3, -4. I'm just going to kind of click through these so you can see the moves. -5, almost -6. Okay, that was a huge change right there. I don't know if that was the last change or not, but my opponent's been ahead for a while. I knew it during the game because I'm at this point down 3 points of material. I'm barely hanging on to this pawn. I do have 2 passed pawns though. My opponent only has 1, and I have 2 passed pawns, which don't know how much longer I'll be able to, maintain that, especially because, oh, that's what they're supposed to play? D3? Okay, so my opponent was having the same problem I was Sorry, is that little button just blinking in my... Yes, sorry, there's a little banner, not a banner, but like in a reflection that, yeah, moves across the game review button every so many seconds, and I keep seeing it out of the corner of my eye. That's really distracting. Whoever thought of that, I can't use it. If I click it, it'll say you've already used your game review for the day, so why is it flashing at me? That's bad design. But anyway, my opponent is having the same problem that I was having in the previous game, not knowing when to push their passed pawn. In this case, I think it seems fairly obvious, because not only is their bishop tied up defending it here, because I am attacking it, so their bishop can't go anywhere else, or do anything else, really. But moving it forward not only frees up that bishop to maybe even go past and help out down here, but the immediate threat is against my rook, which I would have to move. I can't put the rook in front of it because they would just chop it off with the knight. So I would have to move the rook up beside it if they played d3. And then it doesn't say they would, but I don't know why they wouldn't just move it forward one more, because the knight would be protecting it there. I would have to move over in front of it. My entire defense then would revolve around defending against that pawn. So I definitely understand why they should play d3 here. But I guess they just didn't like where the rook was and hopped in here trying to hit this rook. Well, that didn't make any sense at all to me because that rook down there is undefended. So I didn't know, but I suspected during the game that that was a mistake. In fact, when I had moved that bishop up there just a second ago, right before that, honestly, I was kind of hoping that they would say, wait, he blundered, the bishop's undefended, and then I would get that rook. So, you know, I knew what I was doing here. I knew that knight was pinned to the rook. I was trying to deflect it. But when they went that way, I thought, well, that's even worse. Taking the bishop surely would have been better than coming over here, because now they just give up a rook. But I'm only up 2 points of material. So I'm not, 100% certain that I'm ahead here. They're supposed to block with the bishop, but they brought the king out, which allows me to check again. And now they have to move into a spot which leaves this pawn undefended. Okay, so they did. That was their only legal move. I took the pawn, and then when they moved over here, I did not see the bishop until after the game. Okay, I kept checking. I can take this bishop 2 different ways. Either one of those would be my best move. But I went here, which lost parts of my advantage, but I'm still way ahead. Well, for one thing, they don't have a passed pawn anymore, the pawn that they should have kept moving. But here, they can either block that with the pawn, which it says I would just take and still be ahead. Well, I don't think I would have taken it. I honestly thought they were either going to go back or go over here. But I'm curious, why isn't going to h5 their best move? Oh, because I can still take their bishop with the rook. Oh, but my opponent abandoned. Yeah, I don't know why the colors changed here. Yeah, I don't know why the colors changed. But yeah, after I played here, my opponent abandoned the game. You saw the word pop up there. I don't know why they abandoned. They had 8 minutes left. And they're only down 3 points of material. We have the same number of pieces. Maybe here they realized that they can't defend that bishop and I can still take it. Obviously, I didn't realize that I could have taken it, or I would have. I kept checking. Maybe I thought they were about to get trapped over here. Okay, so on this one, it came down to me not recognizing which pieces were undefended in my position and which pieces they could win, because I needed to play queen to c2, which defends this, or put the bishop up here. That's why I'm pinning the knight, because the knight is attacking the e-pawn. I was playing too quickly, although my opponent was playing more quickly than me. That seems to have been the problem here, is that I was playing too quickly and didn't take the time to see which of my pieces need help. And again, the color has changed and it won't let me change back. But yeah, so when I brought this over here and went up, they could have just taken it. They wouldn't have been quite as far ahead as they are now, but they still would have been ahead. But going over here just gives up the rook, and now I'm ahead for the rest of the game. Okay. Well, I don't have time to look at the 2 games over on Lichess, but I think I understand what's going on here. There are some pointers that I can apply to future games. A little voice in the back of my head that'll pop up, hey, check for undefended pieces. Or look at that passed pawn. If I have a passed pawn, maybe I should push it. Except in the case of where I did push it, but the problem with that was that it left the knight and the bishop both undefended, and one of which was under attack. So still need to work on when to push past pawns, when not to push them, and obviously look out for undefended pieces. Well, thank you for spending your time here. I'll see you next time.